I've done a stupid thing. So I was just minding my own business this morning, scrolling through Twitter, when I saw a post describing a readathon for the month of May, going from the 1st all the way to the 31st. And it's called the Royal Readathon. I have absolutely no idea who started it. I saw the prompts, I started reading the prompts, and I got tempted. And you know what happened? I went up to have a look at my bookcase and I decided I was gonna do the readathon. There's 14 books on this readathon. There is 14 prompts. 14 books. I only read 6 for my owls. Granted, I could have read more if I tried harder. I only had 6 to do, so I just did my 6. But what am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, so hi. So, I never normally do TBRs because I never tend to stick to them. I always just read whatever I feel like reading. But seeing as I've now decided I'm going to do this Royal Readathon, I might as well do a TBR because... What? Why did I decide to do this? The way that I've worked the readathon, because it took me a while and I did eventually find a book for each of the prompts. A lot of these are going to be rereads from books I've read years ago, and one is a reread of a book I literally just read like not last month. I think I read it in March or February. I think I read it in February actually. It's pretty recent, but I couldn't find another book that fit the prompt that I had without having to buy another one. So I figured, why don't I just read it again? It was a nice story. Also, I decided I was going to do this entirely separate from the books for the Brave readathon because I have my 3 books. I have my 3 books selected for the books for the Brave readathon: Twilight, The Hunger Games and The Chamber of Secrets, but I decided just to work it into this because there was a couple where I felt like I was needing a prompt. I was needing a book for the prompt and they actually fit. So I thought, you know what, rather than giving myself another 3 additional books to read, I'm just going to incorporate them. So my books for the Brave is included in this, but I'm going to work my way through the list. Oh my god. What am I doing? So the first book is Snow White, a book with an animal on the cover. This took me a while to decide what I was going to do, but in the end, eventually I found this one, and it's actually the next in the series that I was due to start. So it is The Horse and the Boy from the Chronicles of Narnia. I recently just read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and this is the 3rd one in the series, so I thought perfect. I was due to read this one anyway, and you know, it's not very long. A lot of these books aren't very long, so I think I have the chance that I may actually read them all. We shall see. Don't hold me to that. So that is my first one. It's The Horse and the Boy. A wild gallop for freedom. On a desperate journey, 2 runaways meet and join forces. Though they are only looking to escape their harsh lives, they soon find themselves at the centre of a terrible battle. It is a battle that would decide their fate and the fate of Narnia itself. Snow White. Next is Cinderella, a book with a princess protagonist. You have no idea how long I searched for a book with a princess protagonist and I realised I don't have one. I just don't. I don't read an awful lot of fantasy, and the fantasy that I do, none of them are princesses. So I had books with princesses in them, like Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. That's not the protagonist. But in the end, I went through my ebooks and I found one. It's called The Bitches of Ever After. I don't know if you can see that. It is called The Bitches of Ever After. A fairy tale can be a real nightmare. A dark princess fairy tale. And I'm pretty sure it's about the princesses, and I can't remember anything else about it, but they're bad. They're bad girls.
Live fast, die young, bad girls do it well. Live fast, die young, bad girls do it well. Chain hits my chest when I'm banging on the dashboard. My chain hits my chest when I'm banging.
So I figured that's perfect. That'll do. I have no idea what it's going to be about. It's about 300 pages long. It's an ebook. I don't normally read ebooks an awful lot, but I figured that's going to be perfect. Where was I? Yeah, so The Bitches of Ever After. I don't know what it's about. It's about 300 pages long. I feel like I could probably read it in a not bad time, but we shall see. We shall see. Next is Aurora, and that's a book that has been on your shelf for a long time, and I decided it fits the prompt. I'm already reading it for the Books for the Brave, Twilight. This has been on my shelf for a long ass time. 10 years maybe. Maybe not quite 10 years, but about 9 years at least. It's one of my books for the Books for the Brave, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to incorporate it into this after all this time. Always. That is not a Twilight reference. Next up, Ariel, a book set out at sea. I did not think I was going to get this one, but as it happened, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Oh yeah, girl. Oh yeah. The order I've got this TBR set in is a bit random in terms of like series, because I do have 4 books from the series. I have Prince Caspian on this as well, but I'll get into it in a minute. I will still be able to read them in their order. It's just the way I've wrote them down on this that they're in a bit of a sporadic order. But The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, a voyage to the very ends of the world. A king and some unexpected companions embark on a voyage that will take them beyond all known lands. As they sail farther and farther from charted waters, they discover that their quest is more than they imagined and that the world's end is only the beginning. I figured that would be perfect, because I did not think I was going to have one for that prompt, so C.S. Lewis coming through for me. Next is Belle, and that's a retelling, and I figured I came up with this book when I was doing my Have I Got That Book? Do I Have That Book challenge, and I figured that it is a retelling, I guess. It's called Arthur, High King of Britain by Michael Morpurgo. I've had this book for years and never read it, and I feel like that is a retelling because Arthur is like a fictional story, poems, so I figured it is a retelling.
Because it's not like a non-fiction book, it's a fiction book. It's a kid's story actually, or for young adults. I figured
this'll do. The boy found his voice. "Are you God?" he asked. The man put his head back and laughed. His hair and beard were white and long, but the face and eyes were those of a man still young. "No," said the man, "I am not God. My name is Arthur." Marooned on a sandbank, the boy faces certain death. With the sea closing in and the current about to drag him to a watery grave, his final wish is to see heaven. Waking in a strange bed, the boy meets an old man sitting by the fire with his dog. It is Arthur, the great warrior king of legend, and from his lips the boy hears of Camelot, magic, evil and betrayal. I absolutely love the story of King Arthur. Any sort of retelling of it, movies, books, I love them. I love it so much. I just love that story. Did any of you ever see that TV show Merlin? I think the BBC did it. I don't know if it went out worldwide, but I absolutely loved Merlin. It starred like Colin Morgan and I don't know, but it like Arthur was like a younger boy. Not a young boy, but he was like a young man, and Uther Pendragon was the king and Merlin was like younger. He was young and he like met Arthur, and magic was evil and he had to hide his powers. They lived with Gaius and Morgana was there and Guinevere was poor, she was a servant. I loved that show. And then the ending, it ended, I don't know if it got cancelled, and so the last series, I think it was series 4 or series 5, ended up being the last one, and the ending was just, it was a bit bittersweet. It was a bit sad. I wanted a better ending for them. I wanted them to live happily ever after. Arthur, High King of Britain. Next is Jasmine, a book with deception. I had a bit of a struggle with this one, but in the end I decided to go with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Look at that cover. Look at that. Is it deception? I feel like it kind of is, in a way, because it's a little bit of a mystery. I mean, like the whole storyline with Sirius Black and Professor Lupin and Peter Pettigrew, that's a bit deception. Scabbers was decepting us from day one, so I can't help but feel like it is deception, because we all think Sirius Black is evil and he is responsible for Harry's parents being dead and he told Lord Voldemort where they are and he betrayed them. I feel like it is deception. I feel like it falls into the prompt a little, so Prisoner of Azkaban. It's going in. It's going in the readathon. Pocahontas, a book with a battle or a war. I was really torn for this one because I did have a few that fits the prompt, but because I was working my way through the Chronicles of Narnia series, I figured Prince Caspian is perfect for that one, because then it means I can read The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. A prince fights for his crown. A prince denied his rightful throne gathers an army in a desperate attempt to rid his land of a false king, but in the end it is a battle of honour between 2 men alone that will decide the fate of an entire world. That's a fight. It's a fight, it's a battle, it's going in the readathon. Okay, this is part 3. A video in 3 parts. I keep getting distracted. We carry on. Mulan. A book with a strong female lead. I decided for this one, perfect to tie in with the Books for the Brave readathon, and I'll go for the Hunger Games. I'm planning on rereading it. I've been planning on rereading the whole series before the new one comes out, so I figured I would read it for the Books for the Brave. What was the prompt for it? Oh, it was book with NH or S in the title. It's got all 3, and I figured Katniss, she a brave girl. We salute you, girl on fire. I felt perfect. They'll tie in together for my 2 readathons. She a brave girl. She a girl worth fighting for. Next, Tiana. A book with a BAME lead. I had to look up what that meant, but I think it's Black, Asian, I can't remember what the M is. And then ethnic? Is it Black, Asian, minority? Basically, your main character is maybe like a person of colour or they're Asian. I did have some books. I was debating rereading The Hate U Give because I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was so emotional. It made me feel all sorts of ways. I've seen the movie, I loved it. I loved and hated it because it made me cry. I cry all the time at it. Even the heartwarming scenes, the sad scenes. It's such a good book. I highly recommend it. I think I gave it 5 stars. It deserved 5 stars. I was gonna reread it. I'm pretty sure I did just read it last year. Maybe the year before actually. I'm not 100% sure. But then I decided that there's a book that's been on my shelf for a very long time. And I hope this book is gonna fall in. I think it does. It does. It sort of falls in the category. I've had this book for a while and I did start it. I read like the first 4 chapters. It's a non-fiction book. I got this in the works actually when the movie came out. But it is called Colour Bar, A United Kingdom, and it's by Susan Williams. And it's got the movie cover on the front. I don't know if you remember when that movie came out. I'll read the back to you anyway. London, 1947. He was the heir to an African kingdom. She was a white English insurance clerk. When they met and fell in love, it would change the world. This is the inspiring true story of Seretse Khama and Ruth Williams, whose marriage sent shockwaves through the establishment, defied an empire, and finally triumphed over the prejudices of their age. A movie came out about this a couple of years ago. A good couple of years ago now, I think. Maybe 2016 possibly. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure that's Rosamund Pike. Gone Girl on the cover. I remember seeing this in the works and it caught my eye and I decided to read it, and I read I think the first 4 chapters, and then I've just been that busy reading other stuff and it got neglected and I forgot all about it. So I figured, what better story to read for Tiana's prompt, than the true story, even if it features a white girl. Maybe if I still have time, I'll reread The Hate U Give anyway, because I really want to reread that book. It's so good. I love it. But I figured Colour Bar, A United Kingdom, is a true story. One of the greatest love stories of the 20th century, said the Daily Mail. Rapunzel, a book with an adventure. I had far too many to choose from, but I decided that it is time to finally finish the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I still had The Return of the King to read, so here it is. My set's really weird, it's all split up. Each book had 2 books to it, like a part 1, part 2. So this is my Return of the King. We have The War of the Ring and The End of the Third Age. So I do have 2, but they amount to about the size of 1 book. So, 1 good book anyway. So I have The Return of the King, which is the last one in this series. So I'm excited to read those. Where am I now? Merida, a book with no romance. I struggled to find a book for this prompt because I felt like a lot of books do have romance thrown into them unless I read something that is genuinely just a children's story. But because I'd already picked up Arthur High King of Britain by Michael Morpurgo, I decided to just go through my Michael Morpurgo collection, and I picked up The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips, which I absolutely loved this story when I was like a teenager. When I was like a child / teenager. I loved Michael Morpurgo's books growing up. I have so many of them. It's a cute story. It's about a cat. It's about that cat, Adolphus Tips. I don't think there's any love in this. I really, really, really don't think there is. The incredible tale of a deserted village, a lifelong friendship, and one very adventurous cat. It's 1943. Lily Tregenza, I think it's pronounced, lives on a farm in the seaside village of Slapton, and her life is scarcely touched by the war, until one day when the villagers are all told to move out of their homes lock, stock and barrel. Soon the whole area is out of bounds as the Allied forces prepare to invade France, but Tips, Lily's adored cat, has other ideas and returns to the forbidden area. Frantic to find her, Lily decides to enter the danger zone to look for Tips herself. I remembered this story. I loved all of Michael Malpurpose books. They were really good. Some of them like my favourite of all time, and I figured, you know, this is the time when I'm at home all day and I'm running out of books to read because I've been working my way through I've already read like 23 books this year, so I don't have a lot of books left on my TBR that I haven't read. So I figured this is the perfect time to go back and just reread a bunch of books that I haven't read in years. So I figured this can be one of them. And continuing on with books that I have already read and love but I have not read in years is Anna, a book about family. And I chose Private Peaceful by Malcolm McGargle. This was my favourite book for a long time. I don't really know why. If anybody asked me what my favourite book was, I'd always say Private Peaceful. Not really sure why. There we go. I have read it several times. This copy is it's quite dirty. Can you see that? I remember we were studying it in English and I was so happy because I loved the book, but anytime you study a book in English you cannot automatically take a dislike to it because you're having to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb and write essays on it, and I was terrible at writing essays. Even though I absolutely love writing, I was terrible at writing essays, but I did absolutely love this book. It is the story of two brothers. It tells the story of them when they're younger and then moves on to them when they're older, and they end up signing up and fighting in the war. It's Thomas Peaceful. Thomas Tomo is the younger brother, and he's like the main character, the protagonist, and his adventures with like his older brother Charlie. Charlie goes off to fight in the war first, and then Tomo signs up when he's old enough. A stunning novel of the First World War. Michael Malpurgo does the best war stories. He's the one that wrote War Horse, which they made into a movie, and they made it into a stage show as well. They made it into a movie starring Tom Hiddleston and Benedict Cumberbatch and that one guy who was in the new Mamma Mia movie. I love how that's how I remember him. I'll read the back to you. As young Thomas Peaceful looks back over his childhood from the battlefields of the First World War, his memories are full of family life deep in the countryside. But the clock is ticking, and every moment Tom spends remembering how things used to be means another moment closer to something which will change his life forever. I really love this book. I adored it. I loved that book growing up. It was quite sad. Elsa, a book set in winter. You have no idea the grief, the hassle this prompt gave me. I do not have, or I could not think of a single book I had that's set in winter, because I figured, does the whole book have to be set in winter? Is it just a part of the book? A chapter? A quarter? Half of it? I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, and I was searching through them all, and I thought the only one I've got is A Christmas Carol. I'm not going to read A Christmas Carol because it ain't Christmas. And then I thought I had a mystery novel that was set in winter, but I don't think it was. It was just the name sounded a bit wintry, and then I thought about downloading The Snow Queen. It was 99 pence in the ebook library, but then I decided against that as well, and I thought, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to read? So then I decided to Google books that are set in winter, and the first one that came up was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I thought, but I just read that in February. I don't really want to read it again, but here we are. I'm reading The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe again, and I figured it's not that big of a deal. It's not that long of a book. I'll fly through it, and then I can read The Horse and the Boy, and then Prince Caspian, and then The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. So then I'm reading them all. I'll maybe read them all one after the other. So I'll maybe start my TBR. I'll maybe start off this readathon reading The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, because I've already read it, because I read it in February. But I figured, needs must. I wanted to do all prompts. It's mostly set in winter. Snow Queen, Ice Queen, what's her name? Is she a Snow Queen? The White Witch. The White Witch. So I figured, perfect. It just means I'll have to read it again, but it was a good book, so I don't really mind. And lastly, Moana. You would think this book would be about the water, but it's not, because we already had that for Ariel. A book with a chosen one. I didn't actually have a lot of these, I realised, but I figured There's only one chosen one for me, and that's Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I've actually never read this book, weirdly enough. When I first read the books, I remember I was getting them from the library and they never ever got Chamber of Secrets, so I read all the others. And then I did get a set one year for my Christmas, and from it I read The Goblet of Fire because I had not read it, because the library never got it either, because my library obviously hates me. But I never ever got around to reading The Chamber of Secrets. I don't know why. And I decided this is the year that I'm going to do a reread of the Harry Potter series. I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the Owl's Magical Readathon, and I already planned to read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for the Books for the Brave Readathon. It was my book with a brave main character, and I thought, Harry. So this fits perfectly as well, because a book with a chosen one, Harry. We don't really know him as the chosen one in this book though, I suppose. He's just the boy who lived, but he's still sort of a chosen one. We know he's a chosen one. I thought this is perfect because I can read the Chamber of Secrets, and then I'm already planning to read The Prisoner of Azkaban for my A Book with Deception, so I thought perfect. I can start with Chamber of Secrets and move on to The Prisoner of Azkaban. So I'm doing good. I'm doing good with these series. Spot on. So that is my books. I'm not going to be able to pose with these, am I? How am I going to do this? Yo man, what am I doing? Why did I agree to read all these books? One month. I have 1 month to read these. And I already lost a day, because the 1st of May was yesterday. So, I don't think I'm gonna bother doing any reading vlogs for the whole month like I was doing for the Owls Readathon. I just can't be bothered. So I don't think I'll bother because I was vlogging all of last month. But I did decide I was gonna vlog for the week of the Books of the Brave, so that's the 11th to the 17th. And I also figured that I was gonna be making a video of my experience reading Twilight for the first time. I thought that could be quite fun to do. So I'm not going to do like a proper weekly vlog for the Royal Readathon, but I'll be keeping you updated on Instagram, so follow me on there. Laura_loves_books. I also made a Twitter for all my kind of book related thoughts. It's Laura T Books. I'll leave links down below for both of those. This was a terrible idea. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you in my next video, whatever that may be. Pray for me. Pray for me. Goodbye.